My name is Leo Connors, and welcome to The Ring and All Other Sports. Tonight, I got a very special guest through Skype, former professional wrestler, Tony DelFonzo. Tony, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good, really good. This is a long time coming because I think we had it scheduled before and we had to cancel it for some reason. Most likely me because of my job. Friggin', I got the people that work for me calling sick constantly.
It is what it is, man.
Let's get right into it.
Yeah.
Tony, when did you first see pro wrestling?
So it was 1989. It was WrestleMania 5. I remember the Ultimate Warrior running down the stairs, and I can remember that shot from behind him, man. I was hooked. Man, Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude, Hulk Hogan. Man, I was just hooked. 89, 90. I was born in 87, but I remember as a kid, like 2, 3 years old, watching wrestling, man. It was amazing.
Was anybody in your family liking it too, besides you?
So my dad, my mom, my grandparents, my uncle, like they were all into it. So, you know, and we all watched it every time it came on. It was the best.
That's awesome. Yeah. No one in my house liked wrestling. They used to tell me to go in the other room and watch it.
Of course.
So you answered this already. Like, who were some of your favorites right away? You said Rick Rude, Hogan, and Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, man. Anybody that was colorful, they all just stood out.
Right.
My go-tos.
Real quick, did you ever think that you'd end up wrestling some of the big name guys you saw on television as you were growing up?
To be honest, man, I was always a small kid growing up, so I never imagined being in the ring with these guys like Shane Douglas, Jake the Snake, Roddy. I never thought of it, but looking back, it's crazy to think. You grow up, looking at these guys, and then you're in the ring with them. It's crazy.
Right, I can imagine. All right, can you tell us about going to your first show, whether it was WWE or indie, whichever?
My first show was, I want to say 1991, Boston Garden. It was Hogan. No, it was Shawn Michaels and Randy Savage in a cage.
Wow.
The finish, he was a heavyweight champ. I just remember being hooked even then, 1991, 92. I didn't really go to a lot of live events as a kid, but that was the one that I remember of.
All right. What about going to your first indie show? Were you already in the business when you went to your first indie?
I was. It was a month after I started in July of 2001. Excuse me. I went to an event in Gloucester High School for Richard Burns.
Yep.
So I went there as a wrestler. I had been training for a month. I got Killer Kowalski's autograph. I trained with this guy. I got his autograph. I watched, who was there? I think it was Richard Burns versus Rush in the main event. Rush.
Yep.
Yeah. But it was a good event. I'd never been to one, even when I was training. I'd never been to an indie event.
Right.
My first indie event was when I was training, so I didn't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. How old were you when you realized you wanted to give wrestling a try?
I think ever since I was 3 years old, I could date back. I've always wanted to give it a shot. I was I can do this. This is something that I can do. I've watched it for so many years.
Right.
And once I first started doing it, it came to me within a month. Not to brag, but it came to me really, really quick. The more I watched it at home while I was training, the easier I got it in the ring because I was oh, do it like that, easy stuff.
Right.
But I think dating back as a kid, I kind of always wanted to kind of be in this kind of situation, entertainment or, wrestling, sports. So I've always ever since then.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to get through everything, but you originally was trained by Killer Kowalski.
Yeah.
Now, who else was in the class with you back then?
So my first day was July 17th. It was 2 days after I turned 14. So in my class was all the chaotic guys like Aaron Stevens, Chris Nowinski, all those guys. And me and Pistol Petey Malloy were the only two kids that were 14 or 15.
Right. Wow,
so
man.
It was all those guys. And then Mike Hollow was training and all that, Wagner, Arch Kincaid, Vince Vicalo, John Walters. They were all in those same classes. So, but they were only there for a few weeks when I first got there, as we'll get into later. But it was a big class, 30 of us.
Wow.
Easily.
And a lot of good guys came out of that.
Yeah.
Was Eddie Edwards there too, or did he come later?
He started a month after me in August.
Wow.
So he was there in August of 2001.
I just watched a couple of matches of you and Eddie for Wrestling Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had some good matches.
Yes, definitely.
Very basic, very easy.
And saying I brought up Wrestling Star Wars, listen, Knuckles Nelson wants to know, what was it like working for Wrestling Star Wars with Eddie Edwards when he was just a kid? And tell him Nux says he loves him. So Knuckles loves you.
I actually brought Eddie into Wrestling Star Wars with DC Dillinger and Nikki Rocks.
Oh, wow.
That's how they first started. So I brought them in, and I had his first match. It was great. I loved working with them because I worked them at the school, like almost every 4 days a week. So it was like nothing. But I loved working for Knuckles because I actually lied about my age when I first started because I'd been 50. I was just turning 15. I was 14 in the April of 2002. So I was going to be 15 in like a couple months. He lied to me and asked, I lied to him and told him, I was 16 or whatever it was. I was really 14.
Wow.
But no, he gave me my first shot, and it was me and my partner John Russell, a guy named Filthy Rich, and he was like 400 pounds. He, lived the rich gimmick, but it was like a 2-second, like a 2-minute squash, but it was fun. My first match.
Got your foot in the door, right?
Yeah. 14,
Yeah.
Shit, man.
Wow, that's crazy that you were that young. I had no idea that you were that young doing that,
Yeah. Man.
I've had Knuckles on a couple times. Have you read his book by chance? His book is excellent.
I bet it's filled with a lot of good stuff.
Oh, it is. It really is. All right,
NWA days.
I got a few fan questions. Let's get them out of the way. Sonny Goodspeed, why did Tony stop wrestling, and has he thought about coming back?
So I originally stopped because I got into some personal issues with WWE, and it was like just kind of, I felt like it was a point where like I just didn't want anything to do with wrestling. I had my tryout in WWE in Florida, and it didn't go well at all. And I was like at the point where I was like, I can't do this right now. I wanted to focus on other things in life that were actually important, and I kind of put wrestling, back in the back seat.
Right.
I wanted to focus on me, and focus on like, real stuff in life, and not just have to worry about, what this guy thinks or what that guy thinks, and this kind of criticism and that kind of. And I didn't want to do that anymore.
Right.
So I kind of put that in the back seat, and I didn't want that to take over my life because it was taking over my life bad. So I didn't want it to carry on into bigger things.
Well, I think he might have been asking you because, like I told you off air, the WFA's starting back up, and Scott Reed and Sonny Goodspeed are running it. Maybe that was a little say, hey, you want to come back?
I could definitely come up and train, but I'd be getting in the ring and like working like repeatedly and stuff. It's kind of out of the question.
Right.
I don't know, man.
Well, I just think it's amazing how, like, when you left and when you came back, not many guys would go back to training again like you did with Tony, Roy, and Rush.
Oh, I loved it. I had so much respect for Tony because he was there, as an extra for WWE. Like, he paved the way for extras in New England. If it wasn't for him, Triple H wouldn't have got what he got. So,
right. And
respect was all there.
Tony said right here, though, like, I think it was 3 years he worked strictly just for WWE as enhancement talent. And he always looked like $1 million.
Better than the guys on TV now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Ed Hunt wants to know, this isn't really a question, but it's kind of funny. When Tony stopped wrestling, did he resume being a gangster?
Always. Day and night.
Well, the first time I saw you was at NEWA when you were a gangster. What was your partner's name again? I never remembered his name.
So we did a gimmick where we were the family, the Made Men.
Yep.
He was Vinny Giuliani and I was Tony Cianci. And we did that gimmick for like maybe like a year and a half with them.
Right.
That was fun.
Those were good shows, man. That's where I pretty much met or saw for the first time all kinds of independent wrestlers.
Yeah.
That was
Billy
a good.
Kryptonite.
What's that?
Billy Kryptonite.
Yes, and Brian Buffet. Malona says Brian Buffet.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask it. We already talked about it off air, but only because Julian asked it. Were you Mayor McCheese?
No.
Okay. See that, Julian? It wasn't
Ask
Tony.
Mark Sherman. No, ask him.
I've heard that name a lot about Mayor McCheese
You'll
and
be
Sherman.
surprised.
All right, Larry Huntley. I don't have a question for Tony, but please tell him that the Scufflin' Hillbillies miss that guy. Must be
Yeah.
him and Sonny, right?
Him
Sonny
and Sonny, man,
Roselli.
they were great. They were like a couple of good locker room leaders too.
Yeah.
They were very like in line, like very respectful.
Right. Yeah, no, Larry's is a great guy, man. I've known
Yeah.
Larry for so many years.
Yeah,
All right,
he is.
Dave Forney wants to know, hey, whatever happened to the UCW tag team belts? I have no idea what this even means.
So Bo Douglas and Todd beat us for them. For the UCW belts. Yeah, ask them.
Was that Anthony Rupo's company?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. We're going to bring him up
Yeah.
later. He's missed. We're going to bring up a lot of guys that I'm sure you miss very much.
Yeah.
All right, so when you first started wrestling, besides wrestling Star Wars and Anthony Rupo, who else did you work for when you first started?
So Dan Marati was around.
Yeah.
MWF. Jason Rumble was kind of doing the NWA New England.
Yep.
We worked a couple shows for them. Like 2003. Yankee Pro over in Fall River.
Yep. Joe Junio. Was it Joe, right?
Yep.
At that time? Okay.
Yeah. Joe Eugenio. I mean, Chaotic I never wrestled for, but NECW was around. WWA.
Yeah. Sparta,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I want to do a whole episode with you on Sparta
We
shows.
do a whole season.
You know,
Whole
if
season of shows.
I wanted to do it with Kid Crazy, and unfortunately, we all know that he passed away. But me and him
I
wanted
heard,
to do
yeah.
one. That would have been.
He was fun to be around.
Crazy was a great kid, man.
He was fun to be around.
Yeah, he was. All right, so you said you never worked for Chaotic, but you were around all those guys quite a bit at other shows, right? Guys like the Logans and Chase, Arch Kincaid.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people come on here and they don't have nice things to say about Arch Kincaid, and I'm not looking for anybody to bury him. But was he kind of difficult to work with, or did you have no problem with him?
No, he was always sweet and kind.
That's
Very
cool.
nice, very helpful. This is when he had the ponytail, so I don't know if he cut the hair and became a dick. I don't know, but he was at Walters when I first started. He was very nice, always willing to like help out and do whatever you want. Do whatever in the ring. He was very nice.
Nice.
I have nothing bad.
And very talented. Guy was real on the microphone. He was incredible
Great
too.
talk.
Yeah. All right. I want to do. Why don't we go through the name game a little bit here? Talk about some guys, and then we'll get back into your career. First name I want to bring out to you is the late AJ Matrano, who I know you were really good friends with.
Yeah, man. AJ was one of a kind. He was like the Bobby Heenan of like this era of wrestling. He was a close friend. He lived 2 minutes away from me. He was when he passed, man, it's like I passed. I couldn't get over his death for a long time, a few years, and he was close to me outside the ring, inside the ring too. We shared the same, same thing. So I think he was like just one of the best. Easy
Nice.
to say.
I went to the Big Time Wrestling show where they did the AJ Matrano Cup.
Oh, I saw that video. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the show, and I don't know if you happen to know anything about the young kid that won it, Alec Price. He's a new kid.
I actually worked with him.
Did you really?
When I came back to do I wanted to bump around the ring at Belltime Club, and he was there with Benny Jooks and the kid, WCCW kid. I forget what his name. He's got the robe. He works with Bacabella. What's his name?
With the robe and Baca, not Channing Thomas.
Channing Thomas, yeah.
Okay.
I worked with him a little bit in the ring, yeah. Like he's
Both those kids are really, really good, man. I expect big things from them. And they're young. They're still young. I mean, Shannon's probably only like 23, 24, and Alex is younger than that, Alec.
When you're that age, man, you can move like that.
Yeah. They're incredible.
That's age, man.
All right, you brought him up earlier. And I hate to do it, but mine's DC Dillinger. Did you go to his Christmas parties?
No, I didn't go to his. I've been out drinking with him before, and I've been out with him. It was quite the nights. Like he was something else, man. I've known him since I was 14 too. Like when I first started training, he was there.
Yeah.
You know, it was me, him, Eddie Edwards, Wagner. He was like really one of the top heels for a long time in this area.
Yeah.
Wrestling.
He could come out and not even say a word, just look at the people, and everyone hated him.
Because that was really him.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It was just really him.
I talked to George Carroll about it one time and said, no lie, George, I'm from Lowell and stuff, but for some reason, that guy scared me. He just looked like he wanted to kill anybody, Well,
6'3", 6'4", man. He's coming down. He's like,
Right. All right, well, I just brought him up. How about George Carroll, who's doing great things in NXT?
Always a go-to guy. When I want to get booked for Sheldon, he was there. When I want to get booked for Chaotic, he was there. He gave me a lot of ideas during wrestling. The Tony D'Angelo on NXT he pitched that to me in like 2012, and I kind of shot it down. Wow. I never had watched The Sopranos. I never watched any of those shows, so I never knew what he was talking about.
Right.
Kind of stubborn me wanted to be like the whole athletic, like, Italian, Superman thing. But like, had I followed that, I would have been better off.
Right.
That's like comedy and comedy and TV stuff. But George Carroll is a hell of a mind for wrestling. Hell of a mind.
You might be the only Italian that I know that didn't watch The Sopranos.
To be honest with you, man, I watched so much wrestling, it tuned out the things that I should have watched.
Right.
Like I never watched Power Rangers or like different stuff like that. Just overtook me. Right.
What about nowadays? Do you watch any TV shows now? Like, I don't know, Breaking Bad or...
To be honest, I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. TV, when it comes to wrestling, honestly, Mondays and Fridays, it's hard to tune out because my body's been programmed since I was a kid to watch, something at 8 o'clock on a Monday night. So I can't control that. But I definitely watch a fair share of things here and there.
All right, that's cool. It's funny, though, because a lot of guys that I do talk to that aren't in the business anymore don't nearly watch it as much. So it's good to know you still love wrestling.
It's tough, man. If you try to, get yourself away from it, you're worse. You're worse off because then you're forced trying to watch things you didn't want to watch.
Right. All right, how about we'll go with the third, besides Eddie, but the fourth guy from that group of guys. How about Sean Gorman?
Very little interaction with Sean Gorman. I went to his birthday party with Mark Sherman a few years back. And before that, I worked a couple shows with him for NECW. But he was friends with DC. I was kind of like, we always worked for different companies. Okay. He worked for Big Time once when I saw him, and that was it.
Okay. How about Ron Zombie?
I used to work with him for Knuckles, watching Star Wars. Other than that, I saw him work on NEW shows, but other than that, nothing really.
Okay. Did you ever wrestle for Mike O'Brien for NEW?
No, I did ring crew with them, for them with Steve back in 2008.
Okay. So. All right. El Mascarado, good old Bert. Bert Santino.
He was Bert Santino.
Yeah, that's his name, Bert Santino.
He was with Astro Man, right?
Yes.
I never interacted with him, barely Astro Man, but no interaction with Bert Santino.
Okay. And we'll go with Bo Douglas.
Oh, Bo. He's a character. He's a good shit. Always been very, wary of the business. Always been very good to the business. Always giving back. Definitely a good guy. Good soul. Yeah,
absolutely. Did you ever get to work or meet with Tony Rumble?
No. So when I first started, it was July of 2001. I think he passed. I think a few months prior. but I knew of like all his work and stuff, everything he did. I used to watch him on Channel 3, like a few years prior. He was always on like in the morning on Saturday mornings. Like, I remember watching him on there.
He was quite the character. I loved watching his show. It was awesome.
Character.
Yeah.
Before the Boston Bad Boy, he was somebody else, right?
Yes, it was the dungeon master.
Yes, and then he transitioned into that,
right?
The Boston Bad Boy, and I thought, wow, what a great transition.
And I mean, he brought in such awesome talent, like even Kevin Sullivan, Jim Cornette, and it was an amazing time. And if he didn't
a lot of eyes to New England.
Yeah. And if he didn't pass away, the landscape of New England wrestling probably wouldn't be the way it is today.
He'd probably be the top guy in New England.
Yeah.
Promoting.
I mean, and I mean, Sheldon worked closely with him. Him and Sheldon were close friends. And you worked a lot for New England Championship Wrestling, correct?
I worked a few shows. I worked about maybe 5 or 6 shows for them.
Okay.
Different, like, sporadic periods of time. But it was always good. Always good work for them.
Yeah, good shows too. I remember when I had John Cena's father here a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the match between John Cena and Frankie Kazarian at NECW, and I was there, and that was unbelievable.
Were you there when he wrestled Jimmy Jack Cash?
No. What happened?
I remember watching it on YouTube, and it's funny because it's Jimmy Jack Cash's version of it. So it's like it's crunched down to like only when he gets his offense in, and like he's doing commentary over the match. It's pretty funny. You gotta check it out.
Oh, I definitely have to. I was in at a Sparta show when he had his first match, and it was against Jimmy Jack Cash.
Oh, Jimmy Cash.
And he wrestled. Oh, come on! I just had it. John Walters. And that was either John's first or second match, and it was Jimmy Jack's first.
Wow.
Now, I went. The one Sparta show that I remember the most was in Nashua, where Jeff Costa ran at the St. Stanislaus Hall, and Virgil was on the show. I don't know if you were on the show. I can't remember everyone that was on the show, but
I don't think so.
He wrestled Rick Fuller. And I guess he was giving Sparta a hard time in the back. So Rick Fuller's outside the ring. He grabs the ref. And me and my son just happen to be right there, sitting right in those seats, second row. And he tells the referee, watch this. He goes in the ring, and he lights up Virgil with like 5 chops. It was Virgil's a black guy, and you could see the handprints on him. He went in the back, started yelling. Everybody could hear him, and he left.
And then he left.
Yeah, still dressed as a wrestler. So were you there that night? And I remember the Pittsburgh Steel team was there that night too. I had never seen them before or since. Do you remember those guys?
No.
They were a pretty good team. Like I said, I only seen them once, but they did good that night. All right, let's...
Wait a minute, the Power Steel?
No, I know them, the Power Company, Dave and Dean.
Oh, I thought you meant the Power Company.
I remember those guys too.
Yeah.
How about Jay Gillette, Kid USA?
He was he worked for Knuckles. Yeah. I had a match against him once. It was pretty good. He good guy. I know his son wrestles, right?
I think he stopped, unfortunately, because his son Travis was doing really good. But I think after COVID, I haven't seen him since COVID. So it's been a couple years. I haven't seen him wrestle.
Wow.
But Jay was very talented. And if he had a couple more inches of height, he probably could have went somewhere.
He was like Jamie Noble.
Exactly. Yep. Who just had his last match, I guess. I don't know if you read that.
Yeah, good for him, man.
Yeah. Very talented kid he is. All right, speaking of chops and everything, let's talk about Rick Fuller.
I worked Rick once in a tag match. It was me and Eddie against him and Gino Martino. He lit me up, man. He chopped me. I thought that I saw God.
Right.
I remember like it was yesterday. Like he chopped me, and I just fell from like up here to just down to the mat, man. I just thought I was like seeing stars, and he hits you, man. He hits you. But I think they say that if he chops you, he likes you.
Right.
So
Probably.
I think that's all I was thinking about. At least he likes me.
Right. All right. How about Slick Wagner Brown?
If it wasn't for him, guys like me, Eddie Edwards, DC Dillinger would have never been able to fulfill our wrestling career.
Really?
If it wasn't when Mike Hollow left and he took all chaotic with him, the only guys that were left was Slick, April, me, DC Dillinger, and Eddie Edwards.
Wow.
And it went from a group of like 30 guys to maybe 6.
Jesus. Wow, that's crazy.
Hollow took everybody, like the end of the summer of 2001. I was and I was 14. I lived in Malden. Walters was in Malden. I'm not going to go to, and I'm not going to go to the Mike Hollow Institute of Wrestling. I'm going to go to the Killer Kowalski Institute of Wrestling. That's what I thought at the time.
Yeah.
And the guys that left, I was like, wow, it's a lot of, coming in one day, I was like,
where is everybody?
Well, because my parents paid $2,500 3 weeks earlier.
Wow.
And then, we all just kind of left up to Wagner to kind of lead us in the right direction.
Well, Wagner's still the great guy that he was back then today.
Always,
he's doing great things down in Connecticut with this Test of Strength.
I've seen that when he first started it, yeah.
Yeah.
He deserves it, man. He's always been that way.
And he's got a couple of kids there that are really, really good. There's this one kid, Sammy Diaz, who's incredible, man. Took him a little while to pick it all up, but you should see him now, man. He's really, really good.
That's awesome.
How about Eric Sprazier?
I knew him from Knuckles. Never met him. I just know that he was Knuckles' tag team partner in NWA or CWA. Both. Yeah, okay.
Because they were NWA tag team champions at one point.
Yeah.
Eric and Knuckles, yeah. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, then Eric and Dukes Dalton, I think, also won the NWA tag team championship.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And then, that was like right at the very end when after that NWA kind of went off the rails and, the company was pretty much gone.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about your kayfabe brother Eddie?
Oh man, I met him at Tony Roy's wrestling school. He was we were grew up kind of right near each other, and we just kind of took a liking to each other. We kind of wrestled the same. We kind of did all tag matches the same, and he was we clicked really well for a tag team. I kind of had the body and everything. He kind of had the strength and the power.
Right.
We made up for whatever we lacked in. Kind of the best way to say it.
You guys were a really good team. Now, he also wrestled as Bam Sullivan, correct?
I think Bam Shaw.
Bam Shaw. You're right. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So just in case anybody didn't know him as Eddie,
you can look him up as Bam Shaw.
That's it. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
How about Dylan Cage?
I never worked him. I worked on the same show as him with for Knuckles. I think he worked for Marathi a couple times.
Yeah, he worked for him a lot.
Yeah, nice kid.
Yeah,
great worker.
All right. How about Big Woody, the late great Big Woody?
Oh yeah, another guy from I think Wrestling Star was.
Yeah,
nice guy, really nice guy.
Him and Knuckles were really good friends. And I don't know if you ever... Were you there at the show when they both got their heads shaved?
No, but I saw it on YouTube.
Hilarious. They go in the back, they drag Knuckles out.
Yeah.
I think I only went to one of Knuckles' shows in Salisbury, and you would think being, as a big fan I am. There were a few years... Arena. Yeah. There was a few years I didn't go to many shows because I had some personal issues. I was living in Boston trying to stay off of drugs. You know what I mean? I had a hard time with that stuff back in the day. So it was around that time that I was living in Boston, so I didn't get to go to many shows,
Yeah.
All right, how about Stiff Mike? I know you know Stiff Mike.
Stiff Mike. He was what he said he was. He was stiff. I think when I first started training, I think he took out his aggression on me for some reason. He was very, like I said, stiff. I remember April Hunter telling me to not get in a ring with him before I got to like when I used to get to the wrestling school really early, because Walter used to drive me to wrestling school. He used to live right up the street from me.
Okay.
So Walter would come pick me up at my house and drive me to wrestling school. So I used to get there really early, and so did he. And he used to always be like, Tony, let's get in the ring. And I would be wiped. Like, he would just stiff me, like clotheslines, elbows, all these stiff shots. And I think I said something one day, and she was like, do not get in the ring with him ever again. So he would like try and pull me in the ring, and I'd say no.
Right.
And it was so weird because, like, you're green. You do as you're told. You get in the ring and all this other stuff. But he was stiff, man.
Well,
that's the way he was. That's the way it was.
No, that was him back in the day when he was a dick, because he's literally told me that and I'll be honest with you, he ain't that same guy anymore.
I didn't want to say it, but I guess you did.
But he's the one that said it here too. He goes, he knows he was like that. He ain't the same guy, man. He helps a lot of young kids up at Atlantic Pro Wrestling and stuff. Mike's a different guy. So,
I bet he is. I bet he is.
But that was good of April, though, to tell you to don't get in the ring with him.
Do not get in the ring with him. He is dangerous. I said, I know.
Yeah, you already been in there with him a few times. All right, how about the late, great Anthony Ruffo, who I only met a few times, but couldn't have been nicer to me?
From what I remember, he was always nice. He always paid us, never had an issue with the UCW. I know he was pretty big and chaotic for a while. He was the Chaos champion. Yeah,
and also he was a tag team partner with Gino as the Millennium Killers.
Oh, yes.
That's when they both were huge. I mean,
those
both
two
of them
together,
were.
Forget it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Gino was my son's favorite wrestler when I used to take him to indie shows, because remember, he would do the Cactus Jack thing going from the ring apron to the floor.
He did it to me.
And he would, I don't know if he was mad at people or not, but it looked like it hurt when he did it to people.
I remember I'm not feeling a thing.
Wow.
Forgetting to sell it because I didn't feel it. I remember that about Gino.
Right. What a super guy, though. Superhuman. Remember?
Superhuman.
Yeah, they said he's got the thickest skull of anybody in the at least the United States. That's crazy. I gotta ask. Yeah, I gotta ask you this from Wrestling Star Wars, because I have who the heck was Pepsi Boy?
Dylan Cage.
It was Dylan? Okay, I never knew that.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Dylan Cage.
How about
Probably should have kayfabed that. I don't know if I should.
No, that's all right.
I said it so easily.
I think he would have
down. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
No, I don't think he can. He hasn't wrestled as Pepsi Boy probably since Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right. How about you had to have been around a guy that's still around the indies now, even though he had made it big before. Tony Atlas.
Oh, the Footman. He was open about it, at least.
Yeah, he is.
Real nice guy. I heard he had a gun in his briefcase in Maine. I remember him opening up his briefcase. He always carried a briefcase with him.
Right.
And he had like one of those like handguns in there with him. And I guess he always carried around his gimmicks, and a gun in a briefcase.
Crazy.
Just nonchalant in a around the locker room, gun in the briefcase. Old school. That's kind of mentality. If you didn't get paid,
right.
You got this. But he's old school. He's tag team champs with with Rocky Johnson there. Give him his due.
It's funny, you would have never known they didn't like each other, huh? Like when you watched him on TV.
I've been watching
I had no idea.
Watching Young Rock.
Yeah.
And I'm just like learning how much he didn't like his father.
Yeah.
Wow.
His father was kind of an idiot. When watching the show, it's like, why the heck would he do that? But
yeah, kind of did everything backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you do watch that show, though, huh?
I do. Yeah, I got into it because I want to see the characters. I saw that Luke Hawx plays Stone Cold.
Yeah.
I saw a couple other guys play. I want to see what these guys look like in different characters. It's kind of the same, but
I thought Colt Cabana looked great as the Brooklyn Brawler.
yeah,
Really,
he looked just like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever met Colt? Did you ever meet Colt?
No, never met him.
No, good dude. I met him a bunch of times. Really, really good guy.
Looks like a nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He's a cool guy. Yeah. And he shares a bank account with his mother. You must have heard that, right?
Yeah, that's what I hear.
That's hilarious, man. But then he turned around. Colt said, "So doesn't his brother, who's like who works on the Simpsons, I think."
The Family Guy.
Family Guy. That's what it is. Yeah.
The joint account.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. How about I haven't brought this guy's name up here in a long time. C.J. Summers. From back in the day. I know you wrestled him a couple times. You don't remember?
No, he worked before I got the Knuckles. He worked in like 2000, like 99, 2000 for Knuckles. I know who you're talking about, but he was there a couple of years before me.
All right. Let's talk about your other two trainers, Tony Roy and Rush.
Rush is a character. Rush is I met Rush at Walters in 2001. And I was like, this guy's like looks like just like Lex Luger.
Yeah.
I remember just always saying to myself like exactly like Lex Luger. Rush is great. He lived in Revere. I live in Wakefield, but he always was like within 10 minutes of me. Rush for some reason. Tony Roy, then one of the nicest wrestlers. Too nice to have made it in wrestling.
Right.
He didn't make it because he's just too nice.
Right.
Just too nice of a wrestler. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Just too nice of a guy.
I gotta say, I had him on here twice, and I gotta get him back because he was incredible to talk to. All the, like you said, you know what I mean? All the 3 years of that enhancement talent, he wrestled everyone. You know, and it always, and he could work, and it was great because back then with him, he would get some offense and not a complete squash, you know?
He would hit you, you wouldn't even feel it, man. He was so light, it was so easy to work him. Never any complaints. Like when I remember when Ric Flair's son Reed came to wrestle for Big Time, Steve put him with Tony.
Right.
Because he knew that Tony was that good to put him with Ric Flair's son.
Right.
So, I mean, that speaks for itself.
Now, how was that? So you met Reed Flair?
Yeah, nice kid.
Nice kid, yeah. I never got to see him wrestle as a pro. Was he pretty good?
So me and Eddie were supposed to wrestle him and Kevin Nash the night that he died.
Oh, wow.
He died. We were supposed to wrestle him in Maryland. And we got a call from, I think, Rick's agent saying that Reed had passed away. But we were going to wrestle him and Kevin Nash that night in Maryland. He died that morning.
That's sad. So sad.
Crazy, man.
How was Kevin Nash to work with? Because I did see that you wrestled quite a few times against him. He was with Buff sometimes, and I forget who the other.
He wrestled him and Buff, him and Flex Armstrong.
Yes.
They were great matches, really easy. Like he grabbed the hot tag and came in, boom, 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 clothesline, choke slam, easy stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, how about Flex Armstrong?
Oh man, he was. Him and I went at it a couple times. Just differences we had. I said a few things about him. He said a few things about me. I think all in all, I just kind of just selfish behavior we were having.
Right.
Nice kid though. He tried. But nice kid. He's
still working for Steve. So why don't we Steve Perkins?
Is he really? He's still working for Steve?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
that show that I went to, the Big Time, where they had the AJ Matrona Cup. He wrestled Mr. T.A. Terriel.
I think I saw something like that online in a table match.
Yeah. You should have heard all the fans, though, telling them to kill him. Nobody wanted to see Mr. T.A. ever wrestle again. At least I didn't.
They don't like him. They don't like T.A.
How long? Now, is that Steve's company, or is that him and T.A., or who owns?
So when I first started back in 2007, it was Steve and Terry's.
Okay.
And then I think somewhere along the line, I thought that Steve had bought Terry out for the company. I don't know, but the last member, it was always Steve and Terry together bringing in talent. all of that stuff.
Well, that show that I went to, that was full. The Hardy Boys were there.
Yeah.
The Briscoe brothers and the SAT. 3 phenomenal tag teams, man. That was
He's been
awesome.
selling that place out for like 10 years.
Yeah.
10, 12 years been selling that place out.
So
That's
are you watching AEW at all?
I'm watching it here and there. Yeah.
I
watch
gotta
it like Wednesdays.
Yeah. I got to ask you.
Yeah.
Did you see the new tag team that they brought out? The Spanish Announce Project?
No. Who's that?
It's Serpentico, Dr. Luther, and Angelico. And I don't know. I'm a fan of the SAT. I have been. I've known them. I've had them on the show, and it kind of pissed me off in a way. Like how would you feel about that? Out of all the names you probably could give a tag team, you take one that's so similar to a group of guys that have been doing this for over 20 years. Spanish Announce Project, Spanish Announce Team. They couldn't have came up with a better name. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. If you look at them, none of them even Spanish.
I think Serpentico might be.
Well, he's in a mask. You can't tell.
Right. But Luther's from Canada.
Yeah.
I posted it on Facebook. Yeah. I posted on Facebook, and this kid went after me. He's like, calm down, killer. And I'm like, what are you, like an AEW fanatic, dude? I have my own opinion. You have your own opinion.
It's really tough with that company, man, because there's so much side booking going on, and they don't have that much. They've got 2 shows on YouTube, Monday and Tuesday. They got Wednesday. They got Friday on Rampage. It's already taped. So you're trying to fill all these storylines in 3 hours every week.
Yeah.
There's just too many chefs in the kitchen.
And I think they have over
100 eaters in the kitchen too.
Oh yeah, they have over 100 wrestlers signed.
What are you gonna do with all those people?
Exactly. It's crazy.
That's and all those guys are expecting to get some sort of TV time.
Right. And with the problems they were having in the back, and you know what I mean, in the back, the dressing rooms and all that, you would think that right after that they would have hired some ex-wrestlers to keep these guys in line.
Yeah.
Because it seems like some of these guys don't have the respect they should for, you know what I mean? Like a William Regal or like Adam Page, I guess, said, I don't need to learn from anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of messed up.
And you could be a 15-year veteran and learn something from a kid that's only been wrestling for 2 years. You know that.
Absolutely. You never stop learning in this business. I think the problem was that you take a company like AEW and the guy Tony Khan, he doesn't know where to lay his eggs. Right. He doesn't know which basket to put his eggs in. Because look at everything that's gone down. CM Punk, the Young Buck stuff. Nothing's resolved. There's no real character-driven storylines in AEW. You don't know who to go for. MJF's here for a little bit. There's Ambrose, and then there's this, and that. It's like little bits where it should be all in front of you.
Right. What do you think about MJF?
He is definitely gonna surpass, I think, wrestling within the next 10 years. I think he's kind of paving a way for guys like him to kind of talk and behave, and because you never see anything like this.
Right.
This cocky mouth, arrogant kid getting over.
Yeah, and he stays in character all the time.
Always. Yeah.
We saw him, me and my buddy Dan went to a Limitless show, and we saw him get out of a car with a bunch of other guys, from New York for the show. And he didn't see us right away. And he was smiling and laughing with his friends. And then all of a sudden he saw us, and he immediately went into character with the look of disdain on his face, shaking his head, looking at us. It was funny, man.
That's a true pro.
Did you ever see the one he did? The little kid came up in a wheelchair for an autograph, and the little kid says to him, "How you doing?" He stood up, danced around, and said, "Better than you." Now that's a true heel.
That's pushy. Yeah, that's pushing a little bit. That's a good heel, though.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what about Chris Jericho? Some
What
say
about
he's doing the best work of his whole career. Personally, I think Chris Jericho's one of the greatest.
I think he's doing better than he should have been doing before. When he got pretty heavy at one point.
Yes,
and he let himself go. But I think that's part of who he is and what he's doing. Like he got himself to a certain overweight, stature and slimmed himself down. People noticed it, so he's still making people talk about him.
Yeah,
he gained weight just to lose it, just so that people could talk about him.
Isn't that crazy?
That's always reinventing yourself.
Yeah, it's like
Jericho
an actor does that.
Jericho got skinny.
Right.
Jericho. So.
I mean, and you look at actors that have done that, you know what I mean, for roles like Christian Bale,
oh, God.
That one movie, and then he did, the one that he did, the Mickey Ward movie, The Fighter.
Oh, we had to be like a drug addict? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Lowell,
yeah.
and I know those guys. And when they said Christian Bale was going to play him, me and everybody else from Lowell were like, no one can play Dickie Eklund. No one.
Yeah.
He friggin' nailed it and won an Oscar for it. I mean, he nailed it.
That.
He nailed it. I thought I was watching Dickie. It was crazy.
Wow.
And then on the Golden Globes, Dickie ended up on stage with Christian Bale. And I'm watching it with my girlfriend, and I'm like, this is surreal. You know? Crazy. Wow. All right, is there anything you want to talk about?
Oh, man. I don't know. I don't really know. What do you think?
Well, how about this? What was the last show you went to? How long ago was that?
My last show, I went with Mark Sherman to a show. Sasha Banks got us tickets. It was the Raw in 2018.
Oh, wow.
July of 2018. Yeah.
So you still hang around with Sherman at all? Yeah?
Yeah, we still text.
Oh, you tell him, man. I want him on this show bad. He'd be a good guest too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we do like a double two guest thing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to have you guys in. You got to come in the studio at least once. You know?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
All right, so let me get another couple names for you. Commissioner Vaughn Johnson. Do you remember Brad?
Oh yeah, that was NWF.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vaughn Johnson. Yeah, I remember him.
He was. I actually saw him with Sheldon one night at an NCW show, and you know who else was there that night? Bob Evans.
Oh, Bob Evans.
And remember how Bob and Sheldon didn't like each other for a long time?
Well, he worked for Sheldon in 2001, right?
Yeah. But they had a falling out. And I happened to be there when I'm looking at them, and they hugged, and I was like, I don't think anybody else in the building realized what was going on over there, because they had some heat for a couple of years.
It was like Vince and Eric Bischoff finally hugging, and
that was crazy.
It's kind of like that.
You're right. How about we brought him up earlier on Jason Rumble?
Oh,
come on, kid. You got an answer for me.
Oh man, he was something. He was like a real carny.
Yeah,
he was like a real carny. Like he would like book these shows. I remember like he would book these 2-week shows in Canada and ask me to come up and come do them. And from what I heard, it was like all shit shows, like the worst 2 weeks of your life you're ever going to spend on the road. Michael Moulet, I don't remember him. Michael Moulet. He wrestled with Jason Rumble.
Yeah, I don't think I remember him.
Yeah, he was telling me, man, it was like the worst 2 weeks of his life, and it was like the worst shows. Like he booked them like 2 weeks for like circle around Canada for 2 weeks, and I was like, nah, I'm all set.
Right. Now you wrestled pretty all over the place down the East Coast with Big Time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you have any funny road stories or anything from those trips?
Oh, man.
At least one you can tell.
So it was a Big Time show in Pennsylvania. It was at a mosque. It was the main event was supposed to be it was Tommy Dreamer versus Shane Douglas. The finish was me and Eddie run out and grab Shane's foot and like just hold him so he distracts, so Shane gets distracted with the ref. But me and Eddie, well, at least I had been drinking prior to that. I had probably drank maybe like a half a bottle of Jack Daniels. Ran out to the ring and tried getting in the ring and trying to pull Tommy down instead of just running out and grabbing his foot from outside. That was probably one of the worst stories because I was, intoxicated, doing a run-in.
Right.
But we had a lot of like crazy, not crazy, but like just bad like stories, like going to strip clubs and doing all these bad, shit, just regular.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, we did what the wrestlers did in the '90s for BTW, like on the road. That was kind of our life. So that's kind of what we did.
That's hilarious. I almost forgot about this guy. Latin Fury, Luis Ortiz.
Oh, God. I wrestled them at Atlantic Pro Wrestling. I showed up to the building, and I was wrestling him in the main event. He goes, I got the whole match planned out. I said, oh, shit. Because I hate doing that. Like,
right.
Having to remember everything. It was like a 20-minute match we had to remember. He was like, and we went over it once. He was like, you good? You got it? Good. And I was like, no, I don't have it.
Right.
You haven't even like told me the other half. But I remember him being like very like particular, and even a lot of his matches I heard that he was like that, like Macho Man, like he would like plan out the entire match.
That's
go
nuts.
out there and do it.
Now you like to call it in the ring, right? Like you would talk in the back about a couple things, right? Maybe, and then the finish, but then you'd call it in the ring.
Yeah, because especially if you know who you're working, like like okay, if they're trained under this guy, they might not know what it means, like just to call it the beginning, the middle, and then like call a finish in the back. Right. But for the most part, that's how I like to do it because you don't know what's going to happen out there.
Right.
I could break my leg, and what are you going to do? You're going to go like according to what we talked about.
Right.
Learn how to call it on the fly. Learn how to do things that, out of your comfort zone.
Right. Because especially there's times that the fans will make you change the way they react to stuff.
The reactions. Yeah.
Right.
Like if you're going home and they don't want you to go home, you got to prolong it. Or if the crowd's not behind the face, do something different.
Right.
You got to learn how to think quick.
Who are some of your favorite promoters that you worked for?
I'm gonna start with my first is Knuckles.
Yeah.
Because he helped me get into the business and always was good to me.
And he loves you.
And he loves me.
And he loves you.
How can I not love him as number one?
Exactly.
Number two was probably Steve. Number three is probably Spada for comedy.
Yeah.
And number four is probably Sheldon.
Okay. Any promoters you didn't like working for?
Vince. No, I'm just kidding. No. Nobody. I mean, I never didn't get along with nobody.
Okay.
So.
How about when you did
Jamie Jamatowski.
Yeah. Can I just ask you, is it because he's arrogant?
He's a clown.
I don't know Jamie at all. I just know I don't know Jamie at all. I used to have a hard time listening to his podcast because he sounded arrogant.
He knows nothing about wrestling and everything about underwear.
Yeah.
So I don't. I wrestled for him once. And me and Brendan Locke wrestled Omega Security.
Yep.
2008. I wrestled. He wrote me a check for $10.
Unreal.
He knew the whole backstory that I trained at Walters and didn't pick up and go with Hollow to North Andover in 01. So he knew that. I just don't think he ever liked me. Something about it. I don't know. I never was meant to be a jerk to him. I never was a jerk to him, but he wrote me a check for $10 once, and that was kind of it.
You brought up the undercover wear. He had the place in Tewksbury, right? You know where that was, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
My girlfriend's brother and my girlfriend worked there, right next door in the same building. I'm out in the back. I went to work, helped them out one day, and I'm taking a break. I'm out in the back smoking a butt. And who pulls up but handsome, You know what I mean? Arch, like 6 Malonis. They were all working there. And I yelled at them. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? And they laughed, you know. They wouldn't, back then, they didn't know who I was or anything, you know what I mean? They just went inside. They didn't even talk to me. They all went inside. But I just thought that was funny that you brought up the undercover wear.
Yeah, I know Malonis worked for them.
Yeah.
As like some sort of customer service thing. But yeah, he was I don't know what his deal was. He never knew anything about wrestling. He knew about business.
Right.
Which wrestling is a business, and I guess he liked wrestling, but didn't know much about the wrestling business itself.
But for a guy that talks about having money, right? Writing you a check for $10? Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's not a good promoter.
No, awful.
You know? And Jamie, that's all. I'm burying you on that because you wouldn't do my show at the beginning.
That's
George tried to get him. George tried to get him to do the show for me. George has been very helpful, man. George Carroll. Love George.
Always is. Always has been.
I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on over the last years. I know the last match I saw on the wrestling cage match that said that you had was against Johnny Vegas. And I mean, all the stuff that's come up, but before any of that came out, everybody loved Johnny Vegas, correct?
Everybody did.
You know?
But you know what, Leo? At the same time, if you're complaining like that, like I saw that apparently all these things that he said about Johnny Vegas. Why not? Why are you running to social media? Why are you being that guy that makes yourself out to be vulnerable? You know, because that's not how this is going to get solved.
Right.
You know, you're not going to run to social media why didn't you confront him?
Right.
You know, if he did all these things, why didn't you confront him?
Because they got no balls. That's why. And I'll say it.
Exactly.
I said it. Got no balls.
The new generation sucks.
It really does. I hate to say it. And there's a lot of good young wrestlers too,
Nobody
Tony.
wants to be a guy.
Exactly. Tony, this was fun. We got to do it again. I do not have many shows booked ahead. So maybe I'll hit you up over the weekend and we'll figure out another time, okay?
Let's do it, Leo. I love it.
Great. It was awesome to see you. I hope you have a great, safe New Year. We'll talk soon.
Definitely,
Take care.
Leo. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We're out.
Brother.
Peace. Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying the show. Listen, I could use a little help to grow my YouTube channel. So if you could please like, share, and subscribe. That's most importantly, subscribe. Send me a direct message, and I'll give you a shout out here on the show. My YouTube channel is real simple. It's just my name, Leo Connors. Thanks in advance. Peace.